The Bible does have some things to say about piercings and about tattoos. Not a lot, but it has some to say. The easiest is piercings and earrings in particular. It's pretty evident that women, girls, and even young boys, at the very least, perhaps men, but we know young boys did wear earrings. We read about it in Exodus. It is descriptive and not prescriptive, so you don't want to make an argument about it. God doesn't address it. But it does appear that in Israel, as in almost every other culture, that those piercings were decorative. It was a means by which they could beautify themselves. It wasn't necessarily associated with idolatry or anything like that. This is why I think there's no mention of earrings in the law forbidding them in any way. When it comes to tattoos, in Leviticus 19 is really the only place where tattoos are mentioned. And in this case, it is tattoos or body markings for the dead. And there does seem to be a connection between this idea of putting indelible ink in the skin, not in and of itself, but as it is associated with idolatry. And so he is telling Israel, God is telling Israel, I want you to disassociate from pagan practices, pagan beliefs. And so they're called to stay away from that, disavow and disown any of the cultural trappings that lead to idolatry. Now, I don't think that that is an argument against tattoos in and of themselves, for a few reasons. One, this law itself in Leviticus is put in line with a lot of other laws that governed Israel as a theocracy and made them a distinct people. And so while the Jews may not have gotten tattoos because of this idolatry issue, the tattoo in and of itself isn't right or wrong, much like the other laws in there. Don't wear clothing made of two kinds of material. It's not that clothing made of two kinds of material is wrong, but Israel was supposed to avoid that for the sake of purity before God and as a distinct people. And so when it comes to piercings and tattoos, my concern is not indelible ink in the skin, nor is it a hole in your ear. My concern is identity. Is this person seeking to find their identity in a subculture, or are they seeking to find their identity and define themselves based on appearance? There's a real temptation for that, not just in body art, but in designer clothes as well. So I want to make sure that they are not trying to define who they are by external means, and I also want to make sure that they are not needlessly trying to draw attention to themselves. I think that's, in general, pretty unhealthy and generally sinful. I mean, it's a look at me kind of a thing. So if somebody can go with a clear conscience, they've thought about it, they've received counsel, and it won't become a barrier for them in the context in which God has called them, then I think they're free to do it. But I think we need to think about those things, because in my context, I am a pastor in a upper middle class city. I'm fairly well known in the community. Everybody knows Pastor Joe, and nobody cares about my tattoos. It's just not an issue. And these days, a lot of people have them. So we have seniors that are in our church, and we have young metalheads that are tattooed up and have all kinds of piercings, and it's just not an issue in our particular culture. If I thought that it would be a barrier to me building relationships and sharing the gospel with people, I wouldn't do it at all.